Okay, so mention or discuss who is or who are the top really who are the top dog trainers. And there are a lot of ways to go about that, and I was thinking about that, and I actually had a discussion with somebody about this. And um, unlike what I did with the language guys who were calling themselves linguists, I'm going to more or less start near the top here because it's too much of a waste of time to go through some the guys at the lower levels. Too many of them. And if we're talking about YouTube, and I got to make this kind of clear, I'm going to talk about some people who are on YouTube, but the ones I'm talking about right now that I'm going to talk about in this video are very good. I would call these tier one. If we're going to use this tier one uh, dog trainers. Now, there other people? Yeah, but they're in certain fields, and some of them don't want to be known globally. These guys, for example, really aren't on YouTube because they make their living by being known in their niche, or they have government contracts, or they run training schools where they make a lot of money. But they have all compete. The three. I'm mainly going to talk about three guys in this video. They've all competed in dog sports and done extremely well. One beyond everybody, and competed in more than just one or two sports, which is amazing. And here's the thing: you don't usually find. I'm going to compare this again to professional sports because I was a professional athlete. So that analogy is very clear to me. A lot of you won't get that, but that's, can't help you there. But the analogy is very strong. And that is that you can find trainers who can train multiple sports. They're rare, though. But what is impossible, really, is to find athletes who can do really, really well at multiple sports. For example, there have been few people who've tried to play professional U.S. football and professional baseball. There's been a few, but when we get to certain things, like we don't see many people able to, let's say, play hockey and also be a boxer, for example. Those things don't. You have to specialize, and the same goes with dogs. Really, when you get high level, you're only going to see dog. And I'm talking about sports that are kind of similar because in the protection or the biting sports like IGP, which used to be called IPO, which used to be Schutzhund, then French rings, and then Mondial rings, and then there's the Belgian rings, and then there's some others too. There's many other lower, lesser known, but those, let's take those. They're similar, but they're very different. And a dog that does really well in one usually can't do really, really well because there's certain things they look for that are different. And there's been a few there's one trainer in here who's done exceptionally well at everything, and I'll get to that. So, what am I looking for then to say who's the best trainer? I'm looking for somebody who has proven themselves, and not just and I these all these pet trainer guys who don't have to prove themselves and have low standards in what they want to do, and they try to make excuses for how they do things, and people who just want to talk about, oh, I'm influenced by Cesar. Depends on how you want to say his name. Kaiser, that's the Latin. Cesar, that's the Italian, and Cesar for Spanish. Milan. Uh, he is offered kind of a hackneyed would be behavioral mind approach about dogs being pack animals. They are to a degree, but they're not wolves. And man, I have read all the research, the academic research on that. So anyway, they are influenced by him. He's never trained a dog to do anything. He hasn't competed in anything. He hasn't trained dogs for movie stunts or anything either. So that type of person I discount. And for a dog trainer, because a dog trainer has proven himself, and it also has to prove himself with more than one dog. Uh, Now, some dog trainers like to stay with a certain breed because they become very, very good with that breed. Because I said before in a video, training is based on genetics, and it's one thing that dog people modern dog people seem to know pretty well is that it's genetics. If, like, for example, I've said it before, and I was saying it to someone the other day, and they were kind of laughing. But you can't make a basset hound a sled dog. You'll never make a Chihuahua a bird dog, a pointer. You will never make him a pointer, German Shepherd pointer, or any of that. It won't happen because the genetics are not there. It's too bad that people don't do that with sports and don't do genetic testing to see, because there's certain people waste a lot of money on trying to get their kids to be good in sports that they don't have the genetics to pass on for the kid to be good. It's just too much. But that's getting off on a tangent. But what I'm saying is that modern dog trainers are pretty well aware, the professional ones, of how genetics determines what you can do with the dog. And that's why you see certain dog breeds being picked for certain sports. And that's why, uh, the Malinois is the fad right now. They have a high drive. They're up all the time. Their energy levels very high. They haven't been screwed around with genetics yet, and not in the U.S. even, which is where dogs usually get screwed, is in the U.S. Um, and so they don't have a lot of problems like Dobermans do in the U.S. Dobermans are, like I said, in a with a good Doberman, a European Doberman, you have an exceptional dog who can do everything a Malinois can do, and some things better actually. But anyway, to get back to the dog trainers, pick people who have done well in sports, who have trained many different types of dogs besides just one breed, and a couple of these guys have influenced a lot of people. Now, I'm going to start at Ivan or Ivan. Once again, how you want to pronounce the names, depending on the language. Balabanov, who's a Bulgarian, and he influenced a lot of people. It might be originally when Advanced Schutzhund, the book, came out. That might be where he started talking about the game, as he calls it, the game. Not Neil Strauss's The Game, but the game for dogs. Uh, he started making a move. Well, he, not just him, but he's well known as being a leading proponent of this at the time, and that is introducing toy and games for the dog as rewards, especially the herding dogs. They love that sort of stuff, and everybody does it now pretty much. But he was one of the first people, and he has done some other things. He, of course, he's in the United States and Florida. A lot of people love him, love his stuff. I have yet to see from anybody what his difference is on his idea of the game as opposed to how Michael Ellis does the same sort of thing, or Dave Croyer, both of those guys I'm going to talk about. And I don't, he makes a big deal about his out being crucial to his system of training. And I haven't had anybody who's able to tell me how is his out different than Ellis's out or different than Croyer's out, because all three of those guys are capable of training dogs to out. If you don't know what an out is, it's used in protection sports when they bite and then you want them to release. But it's also used earlier in training. Generally, with tug toys is where it starts. I'm giving out some free information on training here. That's the modern approach, and uh, and some people use it as some people use this stupid command called leave it or drop it or whatever the hell, and a lot of these guys will just use the out command for that. But it's hard for me to talk about certain things without going down other tangents because they're connected. But anyway, I'm going to try to stay focused on this about the dog trainers. So, who is the best? All right. Well, like I'm saying, Ivan has influenced a lot of people, and he's very good. He was a world champion in a dog sport, maybe twice. I don't remember. He now breeds Malinois, and they're going to cost you a fortune if you want if you want to get his dogs. Um, all right, so now let me go to a guy who I think he's been in dog training a really long time. Maybe back when I started, maybe I'm not certain. I'm not certain if he goes back that far, but it's close. I think. I mean, he stayed in it the entire time, or I did not. Um, and that's Michael Ellis. And Michael Ellis is the he has a business deal worked out with Learberg. And if you're into dog stuff, you'll know who Learberg is. And they spend all their time promoting him at this point in time. They pretty much dropped everybody else, and guys that he trains, his junior instructors, as it were. Michael Ellis is very good at correlating and collating other people's work. He's been around a long time. He's heavily influenced. He goes back to the Kohler days, like I do, and he is influenced by Schutzen guys who Schutzen guys made lots of initial changes. I mean, like I said, dog sports are responsible for advancing dog training techniques because and everything where you have to compete, you have to do better than other people, you have to find ways to get better than other people. So you have to innovate. So Schutzen was one of the places where innovation happened. You also see it with agility dog. See, there used to be just AKC obedience, and that was it. And then some other kennel clubs tried to do certain things, but they were pretty much the same. And you were stuck with doing companion dog, excellent, utility dog, which is hard, and then tracking, which gave you a UDT if you got utility dog tracking. And then there became tracking contests on their own. And then they've gone to this rally obedience, like I said, which is really for Petsmart's trainer level people. It's not difficult. Then you get into IGP harder stuff and rings and Mondio rings. Those three are much harder than I consider those harder than getting even a utility dog title. AKC is very formative. And the thing is, there's certain ways that they want to heal in AKC, and those are not opposite, but very different than rings and very different than IGP. And the things that the dogs have to do, there is no protection stuff in AKC. They stayed away from it, so that doesn't happen. But anyway, and the jumps are higher in rings and stuff. AKC made jumps lower. Forget what year that was, but that's a protected dog because it's extremely hard on dogs. These dogs are athletes really, and they take they take a beating doing jumps and stuff. So anyway, so Mike Ellis is very good at putting everybody's research and stuff together. He's he's come up with a coherent system of how he teaches. He's very calm. He's got to be the one of the most calm guys I've ever seen, and he's very patient at training people who are basically have no talent at dog training. They have zero. I've seen him work with people who have zero talent at dog training, and they really should. It's like somebody trying to be a musician and they can't do anything. But he forges ahead because it's his business and he makes a lot of money doing it. You can check out his dog training school and see how much it'll cost you. 6 months is $20,000 plus you're going to pay to live and you're going to have to pay for your dog and a bunch of other stuff. So just give me an idea. Okay, and this isn't one person at a time. This is 10, 12 people going through it. Added on to his other business of giving seminars and month-long training stuff. So he's making lots of money. So of course he's going to be patient. I have to, clarity, full disclosure, as they say about motivations here. Anyway, he's very good at putting everything together. He's very good. He's not academically acquainted with operant conditioning, but he's read a lot. And that's the thing. These guys, and they also go through classes from other people that they've gone through, and it they get close to understanding what certain things are, but they're not on completely. They're not completely on. He and I both do not use clickers, and one of the reasons is Ellis says that it's because he's got too many other things to do, and he can always talk, but he also admits that it's not as good as a clicker, and it's not. And I don't know why Ivan doesn't do it. Probably maybe the same reasons, because a clicker is also known as a moment marker, and it gets something like when you want to let the dog know about the. And I'm not going to explain clicker training right now, but it's used in many different other animals. In fact, that's how it got. People had used it years and years and years ago, and it didn't really gain favor, and it kind of fell out. And then when people started looking at people who were training at SeaWorld, they were seeing that they're using clickers, and then it came back into dog training at that point. It had been before, but it came back in, and it's very effective. And studies show that when you use a clicker and you know what the hell you're doing, the dog learns faster. And of course, because too many people are hung up on language and the language that they speak, they say a lot of shit basically, but it's for themselves or other people who speak their language. The dog isn't getting it, and they say a bunch of things, and it doesn't mean anything. It's as if I were to speak to you in Basque, you wouldn't understand a damn word I'm saying, you know. And it's the pairing and the association with things that what a dog understands. A dog doesn't understand your babbling. He doesn't understand your syntax. It doesn't matter if you're fusional, if you're isolating language. It doesn't matter what you're speaking. The dog doesn't get it, and you need to understand that about dogs. I'm getting out some huge information here. So anyway, I don't see why those two don't use clickers. Is what I'm getting to now. Like I said, in the case of Ellis, he's he's like a great musician who can play everybody's stuff. That's really where he's at. Ivan, and no one has shown me where he's different than these than Ellis or anything, but he's a bit of an innovator. I mean, innovated some stuff. Um, so I got to give him credit there, you know. Now, when we talk about someone, and in my estimation, and I know what I'm looking at, and I'm also capable of understanding his accomplishments. Dave Croyer is just on a different level. He's just he whatever place you're going to put people with Ivan, I'm not certain, but you're going to put Ellis up pretty high. But Croyer is a different level. He's and why is he a different level? Am I getting paid by him? No, I'm not getting paid by him. But it's because he's innovative and he's not doing. Yes, he went to a dog training school a long time ago. It's just like this. He's a musician. Like he was trained how to play. Well, actually, he was a musician too, by the way. So he was trained, and then he innovated, and he innovated in a lot of areas. The guy has done nose work. He's done trailing, tracking, area search. Those all are three different types of things. Trailing and tracking, area search are not the same thing for a dog. Uh, Nose work, you know, narcotics dogs, drug dogs. I think he worked with some bomb dogs. I'm not certain. I think he did, but anyway, he did agility dogs. He has done IGP at a high level, rings at a high level, Mondio ring. He's been the captain on the world teams. He, he is just way above. The thing is, just like many people in a field, he really is a genius. And the reason I know that is because I see things that, because of my field, where I'm a genius. He's like a Mozart, and I understand. I see the Mozart qualities. It's just that many people who are not high level can't understand him as easily as Ellis. Ellis is very concrete and structural and sequential, which is what you need to be actually. Uh, Dave doesn't have time for that. He's conceptual, and he's trying to expand people to open them up to teach them how to learn how to solve problems. He's a problem solver. He's trying to teach people how to problem solve on their own, which is what I did long ago with Combat JKD when it first came out in the 90s. Um, but also structural and sequential because you can't just help say that people are going to do it. They won't be able to do it, and that's where I think he loses some people is because they're not to anywhere near his level, and they can't understand what he's saying. Uh, it's like physics; they don't get the multiverse. You know, they're still back on Euclidean geometry. They can't understand it, but he does stuff that he is just boom, 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 uh, and many things he considers very easy, and he solves them very easily. Other people will never be able to solve the same problems he does. So, um, like I'm saying, I don't know if there's much of him on YouTube because his business, he competes, he trains dogs for agencies. He trains them for the TSA, the DOD. Those are going to be huge money. you know, he gets paid pretty well to do seminars or training. You send your dog to him. It's so he's making money. So he's not trying to impress people on YouTube, which is I'm going to talk about YouTube people in different video, but I thought I'd just do this opposite and start near the top here. And so, Ivan, I need someone to delineate to me how exactly what he's doing is different than Ellis now or than Croyer, because what I've seen of Ivan, and I've never met Ivan, and I don't know everything that he does or anything, but what I know, what I've read, what I've seen, I don't see anything that he's doing that he's now at the forefront. I've seen Ellis. I've seen a lot of Ellis's stuff, a lot, and he's good. He's good. If you're a beginner, you should go to somebody. You should go to Ellis. Really, I mean, I'm not getting any money for any of this either. So if you're a high level and you're good and you have talent, then Croyer will blow you away. I mean, really, there are some other people in the world in different parts of the world, but like I said, they're involved with military dogs, or they get paid, and so they don't have to try to be out in the marketplace commercially, which is a whole other world. It's sort of like fighting. If you're training military as a military trainer and paid by a government, you don't give a damn about trying to be commercial on YouTube or anything. You don't have to play that whole mess of hell with kids karate idiots, and stuff. Uh, so you really get to be above all of it. And this may not make a lot of sense to a lot of people because my background is very diverse, but very deep in the areas that I'm in because I don't consider myself really knowing that many different things in life, but things I know them deeply, profoundly. So anyway, that to recap, then look at Ivan stuff. Uh, go to his things, his seminars, his workshops, whatever they call them. Everybody has a different name. Ellis, look at him. Like I said, I think he's going to be the most beneficial to most people. If you're a higher level, or you won't, because otherwise, if you're not a higher level, you're not going to get Dave Croyer. He's just going to go way beyond you. Uh, and if I'm factoring things right by my linguistic skills, he's somewhere in the North Midwest. Um, I don't want to say Minnesota, but maybe Wisconsin, in that area from hearing him talk. Um, so hey, there I'm playing my linguistics skill. The Anyway, so there it is. And if you disagree, give me reasons why you disagree. And if you agree, then of course tell me you agree. And if you happen to pass this on to Ellis or Ivan or Dave, you know, they can send me some money for talking about them. But I will get into some YouTube people. Um, and I'm going to try to stick with YouTube people. Well, I have to point out some of the bad, or the sucky pet trainer people. But there's some people who are not at this level, who are not professional at this level I'm talking about. Tier two guys, I guess, and that's not taking anything away from that I'll talk about because there's some that impress me. There really are that are on YouTube mainly, and they're making money from YouTube by having a Patreon or whatever the hell, you know. But anyway, so there it is. And if you don't know my qualifications for giving a rundown on this, view my previous videos about dog training and my background. And by the way, I will be getting back to explaining operant conditioning more deeply in another video. I started it. Look back there on that. I'm trying to not demystify but clarify because there's a lot of errors when people are saying things. They're confusing illicit, emitting, or they don't know respondent and operant. They really don't know the difference. And there's a lot of things in the positive, negative aspect, and a reinforcer and punishment. A lot of people confuse. I had to correct somebody who's a dog trainer who's making an error on that, and guys getting paid to do it. He confused. He didn't know. He was calling it punishment. It was a negative reinforcement. But anyway, I'll clarify that for everybody in another video. So I'm doing pretty much what I did with linguistics. I'm giving out tons of free information. I'm giving out, saving you people time if you're looking for really good trainers, by giving a synopsis of their capability. Anyway, so stay tuned, and we'll see you in another video. And like, thumbs up it, share it, all that stuff. Subscribe. I got the most varied channel you're gonna ever find. Dogs, linguistics, self-protection stuff. So, all right. Talk to you later. Damn it.